Welcome to the Phantom Trader world, where clarity comes before execution.
Let's talk about the why behind crypto. Forget the price, forget all the hype for a minute. We're going to get right to the core problem that Bitcoin originally tried to solve. And to really get it, we don't start with tech. We have to start with a much simpler, more fundamental question about trust. And this is that question. Really, the entire story of crypto is an attempt to answer this one thing. It's all about a critical, single point of failure in how our digital money system works. A problem that comes down to our reliance on a trusted third party, a middleman. Okay, so to get to the solution, we've got to step back for a second and agree on a pretty foundational concept. What actually gives something value in the first place? I mean, think about gold, right? It doesn't have any magical powers. It's valuable, well, because for thousands of years, we've all just agreed that it is. And that's true for so much of our economy. Value isn't just physical, it's a social construct. It's a shared belief. So that leads to this really radical question that crypto dares to ask. If value is just a collective agreement, then could we maintain that agreement using software, verifiable software, instead of big institutions like banks? This question right here, it's the pivot point for everything that comes next. All right, so let's get into what we call the digital money problem. You see, when we shifted from physical atoms to digital bits, it created a challenge that, well, it just didn't exist before. I mean, if you look at the history of money, it's always been evolving, right? We went from bartering to using commodities, then metal coins, then paper claims on that metal, and now, well, now we're at its most common modern form, database updates. Seriously, most of our payments today aren't physical at all. They're just updates in a bank's database, your salary coming in, you paying for coffee with a card. It's all just changing numbers in a ledger somewhere. Physical cash has this kind of hidden superpower. It's unique. You can't spend the exact same dollar bill in two different places at the same time. Once you hand it over, it's gone. But digital files, well, you know how that works. They can be copied perfectly, endlessly. And that creates a huge, huge problem for digital money. And this is what's known as the double spending problem. It's the central technical hurdle that any form of digital cash has to solve. How do you stop someone from just copying a digital dollar and spending it over and over again? How do you make sure it's only spent once, just like a physical bill? So for decades, we actually had a pretty straightforward solution to this problem, but it came with a really big trade-off. And that trade-off was central control. The solution was simple, really. You appoint a referee. Banks, payment processors, they became the trusted authorities that keep the official score, the central ledger. So when you pay with your card, the bank checks that you have the money, deducts it, and gives the green light to the merchant's bank. They are the ones who prevent double spending. But here's the thing. When you give one entity that much power, they become the actor of the system. And that means they have the power to block transactions they don't like. They can freeze your balance. And ultimately, they get to decide who can even access the financial system in the first place. Yeah, the system is efficient, but it is also highly controllable. And this is where Bitcoin's proposal comes in. It wasn't about creating some get-rich-quick scheme. No, it was a direct, technical answer to this very problem of central control. Yeah, the core idea is right here. Bitcoin's proposal was this. Let's replace institutional trust with verifiable rules. The goal was to take trust out of the hands of organizations, which can be biased, which can be controlling, and put it into a software protocol, one that's totally transparent and can be verified by anyone. And this comparison really shows you the fundamental difference. The traditional system is permissioned and centralized. You need approval from a gatekeeper to play. The proposed system, on the other hand, is based on network trust, a shared history, a shared ledger, all secured by rules everyone can see. So instead of one company telling you what the truth is, the entire network verifies it together. Okay, but that raises a huge question, right? How in the world do you get a global network of complete strangers to cooperate and maintain this shared ledger honestly and securely? Well, the answer lies in incentives. See, a decentralized ledger isn't magic. At its core, it's just a massive coordination problem. You have to give all these different people a really good reason to follow the rules, to validate transactions honestly, and to lend their computing power to keep the whole thing secure. And this is a really, really critical distinction to make. The reward that gets paid out to the network participants, what people call miners, that reward is not the purpose of the system, it's the engine. It's the economic fuel that pays for the security and keeps this massive distributed network synchronized and honest. Okay, let's try to pull this all together. We can summarize the core principles by breaking down that why into 3 layers. So let's start with the beginner layer. At its most basic level, the big takeaway is this. Crypto is created to make digital value transfer possible without needing a bank's permission. It's about a peer-to-peer version of electronic cash where I can send value directly to you, almost like handing you a dollar bill, but over the internet. Okay, now for the intermediate layer. A bit more technically, the big innovation here was solving that core digital money problem we talked about, the double spending problem, but doing it in a totally new way without having to rely on a single central scorekeeper. And finally, the advanced layer. At this level, you can really understand cryptocurrency as a new answer to a very old design problem. It's a system that deliberately trades some of the efficiency you get from a centralized model for something that is far more resistant to censorship and control. And what this all gives us is a really practical framework for looking at any crypto project out there. You just have to ask these 3 questions. First, what problem was this thing actually created to solve? Second, where does the verification happen? And third, who has the power to block or change the outcomes? If you can answer those questions, you can start to understand a project's real purpose, way beyond just its price. So, now that we've really dug into the why, our next step is to start comparing. We're going to analyze what truly separates crypto from traditional money and what's just marketing noise. I'll see you in the next one.
If this video added clarity to how you see trading, support this work. An interaction tells the algorithm this foundation matters. A subscription tells me to keep building it with you.